like connecting to yeah, our ancestors, our guides, the people that are there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We're in
Well,
white.
we're here. It's the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Marcel and Bianca. Welcome to our channel. Welcome to our show. Today is Mr. School. Um, well, one, it's a very, very special Mr. School day because yesterday was Marcel's birthday and today is my daddy's birthday. And I mean, there's so many things that I could say about this. And so I guess what I'll do is be as uh present as I can be and share a little bit about how I got into this work and um how it's impacted my life and how magical it all has been. Because ultimately it has led me to exactly where I am now, which is bringing forward and breathing life into this mystery school. And I also want today to be a day where we can help you connect with your spirit team, help you connect with your magic and your ancestors and your guides, and the tools that have worked for me as you discover the tools that work for you. And um, and what's in store for you and for all of us in the near future with this heightened capacity and capability to connect with the other realms and the other dimensions. So Marcel's going to be helping me to navigate this um, call and get to maybe some of the questions that I wouldn't have. So he's going to direct me. But before I get started, I want to pull the picture of my dad, just so I have it here.
Mhm.
I have a picture of my dad that my grandma gave me, and he's a little boy, and he looks like he's off to Mr. School on his photo. Actually, it's over there, and I think it's in my Atomic Habits book. Cool. Isn't he sweet and mischievous and on his way to like the Hogwarts before Hogwarts existed? Anyways, so I know you said it's a little echoey. I don't know if you have your microphone on or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would appreciate if you kept that.
Yeah.
I can't hear myself. And then whenever I talk, you can.
Yeah. I thought it was muted.
It wasn't. So, um, what should I just say about like what how what like you had an idea?
If you want, let me share a little bit of like why it's important, and then you can share the depth of how you got into it. So we often forget and we assume that it is first that within manifestation, within our reality, within our creation, that we are kind of like the misconstrued perspective is that we are the creator. And that's partially true, but we're co-creators. And ultimately, the path of least resistance, in other words, the path that's going to open up for you most seamlessly, is when you're able to be of service for the co-creation. So If I am just working and I'm striving, let's say, only to eventually purchase myself a Ferrari, the doors and the manifestation, the serendipities will not open up necessarily as efficiently as they would if my goal is to alleviate, a strain in some stress in some part of the world or in some, somewhere. And so it's important that for us to recognize that when we are working towards our cause, towards our mission, that it is not just our weight and it's not just up to us to do it, but rather we have a whole team. We have a whole um, other realm that is there supporting us. And so most of us are aware of this, but how many of us actually utilize this? And I think oftentimes than not that this team, this beautiful, literally light worker army that's behind us, for me, I see my grandparents. I love them so much. Both of them recently passed, um, and I feel them. I feel them all around. But it is astonishing so how can you feel them? Because you can feel them, but if you are able to create a message system. So with Bianca, she saw early on that her father would show his presence with a certain number. Now, whenever she's feeling doubtful or whenever she's feeling like, she's questioning, should I be in this space or something like that, it's like that number is what pops up, right? Some other people might have a cardinal. I've seen this a lot. And out of nowhere, the cardinal shows up in the right time, right when they were thinking of that person. Butterflies are another one. And so ultimately, what I'm trying to get to is have you established some form of communication? Have you established a symbol that can mean something that when you see it, you know that their presence is there, that they are able to communicate, that they're being heard? Because if not, it's difficult for us to have that tangibility, and we often dismiss the message. And so if there is a loved one, if there is a a guide. It doesn't even have to be a family member. It could literally be, for some it could be Jesus, for some it could be Metatron, and so forth. So if there is a guide, have you tried establishing that communication? Saying, hey, I would like for you to show up in this form and then have that form show up. I don't mean go out and try to find everywhere for where it is, but literally call it in, let it go, and it will show up in its most serendipitous and beautiful way. Literally, as the message that you're meant to be heard is being said, that number will show up with that or that symbol. And so what I just to summarize what I was saying is we have access to a whole beautiful um, army of ancestors, right? We have a whole team behind us. We have the Order of the Phoenix, since we're watching Harry Potter. Um, and it's, as Bianca likes to say, and I love that she says this, we are our ancestors' answered prayers. And every single one of our ancestors not just lives within our very DNA, which they are, and DNA is light, it's light code. But this light code is expressing itself within ourselves and outside of ourselves. And so it's remembering that we have access to this team, we have access to this guide, we have access to this beautiful, beautiful, very powerful lineage. And so it's about remembering that it's there, that it's not all on you. And I've seen so many times when Bianca is doubtful, when she is scared, when she is asking for to be held for guidance, how her team shows up, especially her dad. And it literally blows my mind. It gives me goosebumps every time. And so it's just a reminder that that tool is there. So I think that this call is going to be great so you can hear Bianca's story as well as learn the tools of how to tap in because you're not meant to hold this all on your own. This path is not meant to be lived uh within yourself. It's not something that you're meant to carry on your own at all. And so just a reminder that you get to let go of the weight. You get to experience the beauty, the lightness, the magic without needing to suffer. And if at any point you feel yourself suffering, you can literally ask them to carry that weight for you, and they literally will. So, without further ado, here is Bianca Collier.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, honey. Like I said, this is gonna be an emotional call, so just forgive me for crying. But at the same time, I always say that if we feel emotions deeply, especially as empaths, let it move through you, right? We hold it, we hold it, we hold it in. And if my dad has taught me anything, it's to let it out, enjoy life, and to be fully self-expressed. And so what Marcel talked about is really true. My dad actually is the one who coined the term light worker army, but he was also in the military. And so that was the words that he used. He used army, he used light worker. He was also very interested in like aliens and the Pleiades and the star systems um and so one thing before I get too far off on a tangent about how that connection happened and also how it catapulted forward, like compounded quickly. Like once it felt so far away, and then once it started happening, it happened so frequently and with such certainty that even people who didn't believe it was true were like, this is undeniable. So it does become the more that you strengthen your connection, the stronger it gets. And also you become a catalyst for other people to experience it as well because it becomes, I don't know why this makes me emotional, but the magic comes alive in you. And because of that, it comes alive in another person. Just like a candle that continues to light other candles. Like you become that spark that um is a catalyst to show that magic is real. And there are many definitions of magic, so I know that some people have this preconceived notion that magic is bad. Magic is bad. I can't even say it. But magic is all around us. Magic is nature. Magic is our connection to our intuition. Magic is connection to God and the universe and to our angels. And so, yes, the light worker army is very present. But if army isn't a word that resonates with you, take what resonates and discover your language. Um, because And the one thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into it is soul contracts. I always like to start any of my classes or teachings as take what resonates, release what doesn't, discover your truth because what works for me might not work for you, and your belief systems might be a little bit different than mine, and that's okay. And um and so with soul contracts, these are my beliefs currently in this moment. November 25th, what year, whatever year, what year is it? 2026, 2025. I'm always a time 20, 20, 11, 25, 2025. I'm just always a time traveler, so I never know what year I'm in. And so at this point, this is what I believe soul contracts are. So we make these agreements, sacred agreements with other souls, and souls can live in anything. They can live in a flower. They can live in an automobile, in a car. They can live in like the soul of your home. We bless our home. Every time we leave a beautiful space, we bless our home. We thank the walls of the home. We named our motorcycle, our little scooter Zazu while we're here in Bali because that's just her name. And it also helps you to really feel into the essence and the energy and the frequency of her and gratitude for her strength as she whips around these curves in Bali. And so we have these beautiful contracts with everything in our life. the people that we're meant to fall in love with, the people that are meant to break our hearts, the people that we get to be our parents, that get to be our children, even if we don't get to carry them to fruition. Um, and so these contracts are here and they all serve one, in my opinion, one underlying purpose, which is to bring us into our best self. Earth school is a mystery school. If you are on the earth plane right now, we're all in mystery school, whether or not you choose to believe it. We all came to earth as souls to evolve. And that evolution cannot happen on its own. It happens in agreement, in communion, in relation to other souls, other objects, other beings, other experiences. And so once we recognize that we have these contracts with not only the people that you're meant to serve as a business owner, but your sister who you may or might not love in this moment, but also the people that have hurt you, and also the people that you have loved, and also the people that you have yet to meet. We recognize how cosmically intertwined, and what Marcel said is that we have an agenda, we have a belief, we have an understanding of what we want. But sometimes, and oftentimes, God, the universe, creator, has better plan for us than we could ever possibly imagine. And so when we connect with our spirit team and when we understand that all we truly have is the present moment, those contracts and those agreements come to the surface. And so when we call forward our angels and our ancestors and we make the specific intention to align with our highest timeline in all that we do, we find ourselves being met with angels, being met with blessings, being met with opportunities to believe and to see and to feel that we are not alone, that we are always safe. Even, and here's a challenging part, because even when there's so much devastation that's happening worldwide, and as empaths we feel it, and it doesn't feel like there is safety and it doesn't feel like there is certainty. If you really tap in to your belief and to your faith and to your trust that one, everything is always working out and there is polarity to these experiences. So, as there is pain and destruction and devastation, there's also the equal amount, if not more, of love and harmony and gratitude and peace. And you get to tap into that frequency and you get to strengthen that. So, even in the midst of chaos, you get to be that anchor of belief that everything is as it should be, even if it doesn't make sense. Especially if it doesn't make sense, because in the unknown and in the chaos, that is truly where the magic happens. Like last night when we met this beautiful couple and Marcel randomly asked for his Instagram, and the number on his Instagram was
The
747.
amount of posts he made.
The amount of posts that he had made was 747. He literally goes, I'm not going to make another post for a little bit, because he's like, what is that? What's significant about that? And I told him that is a number that my daddy sends me every time I'm on the right path or when I need to be reminded of the magic and that magic is real. And so now I'm going to get into how to create.
It just
Uh,
show.
yes, please.
You can see there. I mean, I don't want to blast him, but like 27, so you know it's real. This is the guy that we met yesterday.
Yeah. And I just started sobbing.
Mind you, it was such a beautiful. Let me just share real quick.
Yeah.
It was such a beautiful moment because we are at this cliffside, sunset's happening. They just lit the fire. My birthday is finishing, and we're approaching on to Bianca's father's birthday, and we have these two beautiful older souls, and You know, they're probably what, in their 60s, something like that. Yeah. And they just he just asked randomly. It's like, "Hey, can I take your picture? Do you want me to take your picture?" Randomly. And we were like, "Yeah." And so they just started talking to us and they were just sharing, places that we should consider going and just like it just felt like such a beautiful and light conversation. And there was such a like fatherly energy from him, and he was standing closer to Bianca, and he showed pictures of his two daughters, and Bianca and his sister and her sister, their two daughters too. And so yeah, it's just feels like such a serendipitous moment, and this has happened so many times where it's, even though he is not necessarily here physically, he is constantly showing up through others and speaking through others. And I just want to share two brief little stories that have really opened my eyes and kind of blown me away. One to the capacity in which the other realm is able to influence ours, as well as to the capacity in which Jerry has been able to show up um, in in our lives, right? So the first one is I had a friend who her grandmother loved to, the way that she would bond with her grandmother was through ice cream. And so basically, this woman, she is at the hospital. Her grandmother just passed away, and she's kind of devastated. She's walking through the hospital, and this random person just walks up to her and says, "Hey, do you want some ice cream?" And she was just blown away because, people don't randomly ask other people if they want ice cream, right? And so it was just like a moment in which, her grandmother's energy and spirit is so strong that her message traveled through someone to communicate to her, like, hey, everything's okay. Um, and my personal take that I've experienced, um, I remember one day when was probably within the first month that Bianca and I had met, and I was at her place in Costa Rica, in the kitchen. I remember clearly. We were just hanging out in the kitchen. I think we were cooking crepes or something like that. And out of nowhere, I just kept on having literally this feeling that I needed to say these words. And I'll say the words right now, but basically, I've never said these words. They were out of context. For me, it felt weird, but something literally kept nudging me. Say these words, say this, say this, say this. And I was having a conversation with myself saying, why am I gonna say this? Like what's happening? Like why am I being called to say this? And so eventually I was like, okay, screw it. I'm just gonna say it. And if it's just weird, it's just gonna be weird, but I'll just say it. And so I said, always and forever. Just that. Like no context, just always and forever. And then Bianca just turned to me and just basically started sobbing. And she told me that this is how her dad would always, since he was in the army, he would send her mom like little love notes and things like that. And at the bottom, he would always close it with always and forever. And so that was just something that was very close and dear to her and her family. But it was something that was literally like I could hear and I could feel his presence, him telling me, "Hey, say this." And so yeah, it's just a reminder that they're there, they're always there, showing up in other people, showing up in ways that you can't imagine. Um,
Yeah, that's beautiful, honey. I love that story. And my dad is uh, always, like always and forever. It's like you also start to recognize and realize that souls like know. Like the little things that they like that in itself, always and forever, is such a powerful reminder. And my dad is such a magician, such a wizard. But of course, I'm his daughter. So Marcel's stories are beautiful reminders of how these connections transcend time and space. And so now that I'm all stuffy, I'm going to share with you how I created that connection, how I personally did, so that way you can explore what that would look like for you. I've also helped many people create this connection, but you don't need my help. But if you do, please reach out because I love assisting and I love guiding and I love supporting. And oftentimes it comes with something that's really special. So, for example, um, one of my gifts is clear cognizance, clear knowing, crown chakra. And so, when I first started opening up my doorway to connecting with spirit, I would get downloads in the shower when water would hit my head. So I'd get these knowings, get these feelings, get these words, get these phrases. And one of the first ones that came to me was Earth Oracle. And I didn't even know really truly what an oracle was at that point. I'd heard it a couple of times before, in the Matrix maybe, but never actually used it as a word to describe myself. But that is what my dad gifted me with. So then it opened up a catalyst of all of these things that I would start to search and study. I now know that my dad had started to begin to send me different words, different phrases for me to open up my vocabulary, open up my mind to the thought and the knowing and the science. Because my dad was also very, science backed, worked in electricity, radar technician, a lot of math, a lot of science,
A lot of frequency.
a lot of frequency. And so my dad was like, read these books, look up these things, but they would just come, like Marcel said, as knowings, as like, oh, that's what I'm going to be doing next, or oh, that's what I'm going to be looking up, or these like, inner knowings. Because your guides and your spirit team can only, maybe I'll omit the only, can speak to you in the language that you know. So once I started learning about sacred geometry, I would be gifted symbols. Once I started learning about the star systems, I started to be gifting different star systems to look into. So if you really want to connect, you get to create the vocabulary first. And that comes from learning. That comes from being open to it. That comes from your life experiences. That's how it happened for me, anyways. But your spirit team and spirit guides can talk to you only in the language that you know. Is that true? No, because even as I'm saying this, you can get information out of the blue that you've never heard of before, drop in. Yes. And also, when our human mind gets in the way of saying, is this real? Should I do this or should I not? You oftentimes revert back to what you have consciously read or experienced in your direct and waking life. So I say this because education and being led by your passions is also a catalyst for connecting with your spirit guides because your spirit guides intend to lead you onto the path of least resistance and will always breadcrumb you into providing you the knowledge, the experience, and the opportunity that is meant to serve you in the next chapter or even in the next moment of your life. Have you ever had those times where you needed to know or you learned something and then you have a conversation about it the very next day? It's those little breadcrumbs that are the universe showing you that it is alignment, it is synchronicity, it is all like beautifully orchestrated in the tapestry of life. And so once I started learning about sacred geometry, there's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of like symbols. Um, I started having dreams about my dad. And because dreams oftentimes our guides come to us in dreams first before they come presently in our life, before we can see apparitions. Because imagine if you saw someone or a ghost and you'd never seen one before, you'd probably freak out. Or if you heard a voice, you'd probably freak out. So the dreams are a liminal space where we are able to access. And our guides and our angels can come to us and it feels normal. So my dad would come to me in my dreams and would talk to me and would tell me things and would share information and would tell me, you know, I could get into all the things that he told me, but for the sake of time, I'll just say that there were things that only he knew that I could convey to my mom, to my grandma, to my sister. And that's when it didn't just become a, oh, Bianca's talking to her dad. It became a, oh, Bianca's talking to her dad.
You need to tell the story of your grandma book. Truly.
Well, my grandma, let's just preface with my grandma is very um involved and Christian and is extremely active in her church. Always has been. Because of her it's been in her family, literally. Her mom was the same way too. It's just like a pinnacle of the church at Salem Christian Church, by the way, is the name of the church. So it's kind of funny. Um and so because because of some beliefs, like she was always a little bit hesitant to dabble or to engage in conversation when I first started telling her that I would talk with my dad. And so um it became one of those things where my dad started coming to me frequently. I wanted to talk about it and share about it, but I also was scared that people were going to think I was crazy and put me in a mental institution or an insane asylum. And so I kind of held some of the close conversations that I had with him close to me because I was like, this is for me and not just for everyone else, right? But then it got to the point where I hmm, it got to the point where I could also feel like there was a certain level of peace that could be felt in my other family's experiences because my dad was taken from us very suddenly. He transitioned very suddenly. It was a very traumatic experience. And so there was a lot of question of whether or not he was okay, if we would have waited a little bit longer, if he was on life support, if he would have come to, like there was a lot of like uncertainty around his death and how it happened and the protocol of how it played out. And so once my dad, I can't even remember how it exactly happened, but I was sitting in a conversation with my grandma and my dad told me that there was a letter that he wrote her that was in one of her like Bibles or encyclopedia. It was like a big book and I could like literally see it in my mind's eye because I also spent the night in the room that the book was in every time I spent the night at my grandma's house. So I could literally like he showed me the book, he showed me the picture of it. It was like this big, it was like super thick. It looked like an Old Testament Bible with those big ones. And my dad was like, there is a note from me in there. And so I told my grandma that. And she went upstairs. And sure enough, in that book was a card, like a birthday card or something that my dad had given her that she had kept in there. And um for the first time, whenever I told my grandma the story, she looked at me and she said, how does he look? Does he look happy? Like she believed me that I could actually see him and talk to him. And I said, yeah, he looks really happy. Because whenever he left us, there was a lot of surgery that had taken place. And so he didn't really look like himself anymore. And I know that's probably TMI, but that's the truth. And so for her to know that he looked the way that she remembered him meant a lot to her. And so, and so, holy fuck. God, it's like I have to like let all, it's so creepy. Um, so those connections are really important. And once I started dreaming of my dad more consistently, I started waking up at 7:47 every time I would dream of him. And I wouldn't dream about him every night, but every night that I would wake up and I would have a dream about my dad, I would look at the clock and it was 7:47. I was like, this is fucking weird. And that's when I got into numerology. And now I know every number carries a frequency, every frequency has a vibration, every vibration has a message, right? And so that's when I started getting into the language of numbers, which is like so my dad, like so my dad. The language of numbers. And even now I can like feel him smiling. So I'd wake up at 7:47 every time that I would have a dream about him. And then now that my grandma it was in on it and was like, okay, Bianca's not crazy. We don't have to send her anywhere. Like she's fine. I told my grandma because I was like, I don't know why, but Daddy always sends me the number 747. My grandma was like, she literally goes, well, he was in the FAA. 747 is a type of airplane. And I was like, what? I hadn't even made that connection. My grandma was actually the one that made that connection for me. And so my dad worked for the Federal Aviation Administration, and 747 is a type of airplane. And so that was like that symbol of like taking people to new heights. And this is something that I've consistently like sat with my dad, like why 747? What is, seven is also the number of the mystic, seven chakras, 7 days of the week. Four is a number of the angelic realms. And so 747 is higher wisdom from the angelic realms and also helping me to understand the symbology of taking people to places that they've never been before through the lens of spirituality. And so I would want to turn this on you and say, if you were to open yourself up to the connection that you have with your spirit team, have you already been seeing messages? What pops up in your head when I say that? Have you already gotten a sign that someone is communicating with you? Does anyone pop into your head when I say that? And can you set an intention in this moment to strengthen that connection for the highest good of all and harm done to none, for your highest path forward, for your most blissful and effortless and peaceful existence? Can you set the intention? I would love to strengthen that connection with insert name here for the highest good of all and harm done to none and to bring peace, certainty, and love into my life. And that's it. And then wait for it to happen. I want to share one story, like one of the many stories that I have of helping people connect with this and people who aren't spiritual, who aren't religious, who are like, okay, Bianca, this is really nice, but that's not going to happen to me. And I'm like, okay. So I had a very close friend and knew his dad very close, like very, very close, and loved his dad, was very close with his dad and him. And then through the course of our friendship, his dad passed. And we ended up going back to his hometown to visit for his dad's funeral. Leading up to that, I said, would you be open to connecting with your dad? And he said, I don't know. I mean, I already not, typical guy response, eh. And I was like, okay, well, just yes or no. He's like, I guess, sure. So then it started. We started seeing, and well, because then I asked him, I was like, how would you like to connect with them? And he was like, I was like, what is this? What is something that you always think of whenever you think of your dad? He said, pennies. And he's like, my dad was always so cheap that we could always tell me, save your pennies, save your pennies, save your pennies for a rainy day. And I was like, that's perfect. So we started finding pennies everywhere. He would open up the fridge. There would be literally one underneath a Pepsi can in the refrigerator. And he turned to me and he would say, did you put that there? And I was like, no. He's like, that's so weird. And then we would just find them everywhere, okay? Like just random places. And then we get home to his to his hometown, and in his childhood bathroom, he finds two pennies. And he's like, okay, like, yeah, maybe, it could have just been my mom cleaning. And I was like, okay, well, just why don't you just keep them? Just start to keep them. And then we get to his dad's grave, and there were three pennies on his dad's grave. And that's when he looked at me and he goes, I think this is my dad. And I said, it definitely is. Okay, now this is where it gets really crazy. So his birthday was like the following month. And so at that point, he was like, wow, I've never had this connection with anyone before. I've never talked to anyone on the other side, but like my dad's definitely talking to me. Well, on his birthday, he walks out of his house, of his apartment, and there's literally pennies. It was fucking crazy. It looked like someone had taken all of the pennies that they'd ever saved in their entire life, and they'd all like broken and spilled. There was like pennies all over like the elevator. It's literally like someone broke something and like needed to come back and clean it up. And he looked at me and he was like, "What? Fuck." And I was like, "Happy birthday." It's from your dad. He left those there for a while because he's like, these aren't mine, but then no one ever came and claimed them. So he put them all, he gathered them all, took them and put them, and now he has like this stack of pennies, like this jar of pennies in his house. And every time he finds one, he puts it in that to remind him that his dad is always there. And that is a true story. That is like 100% true. Like it's just like that level of connection. It's just like it's literally undeniable. It's unless you have it and to see and experience it, and those are available for you too. Those once in a lifetime experiences that are just designed for you are here and available. And your spirit team loves to do that. They love to do it. They love to see you feel them. And I know that there's a polarity when it comes to like tapping into different energies, and you also have to trust that these experiences are going to like lead you and find you when you set the intention for highest good of all and harm none to none, for peace and love. And I know that sounds like Miss America, but it's true. That frequency reverberates out and harmonizes any entity spirit that is not serving your highest timeline and calls forward the team that is, right?
Like a Patronum spell.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly that. That's exactly right.
I just saw the bird. You see it?
No. Yeah, it's like a bright white light. And so we're not going to get into the intricacies. I feel like this is a good stopping point because there's so,
Say one thing though.
yeah, of course. I want to give you that space to do it. I also want to say that week over week we'll be sharing these experiences, connecting with your spirit guide, strengthening the connection. We're going to be tapping into psychic abilities training. We've been doing telekinesis training because also what my dad shared was we will be able to move things with our mind. We'll be able to do beautiful, amazing, magnificent, extraordinary things. And it comes from focus and it comes from love and it comes from intention. And so these mystery school calls on Mondays at 6 p.m. PST are here for me to create that space for you to come back into your magic, to reclaim your magic, and to remember your magic. And so we'll be here every week. Maybe Marcel won't be here some days, but I'll be here every Monday at this time, unless, I mean, life happens sometimes, but it's also a commitment that I made to open this space for you and for us, and also for the new world that we're building together where magic is real. Look at how beautiful this earring looks right here. What did you want to say, honey?
So one message from Klaus from yesterday, which I feel is very important. And yeah, I'm literally getting goosebumps. Um, he said, and yeah, I don't know why I'm getting like emotional thinking about it as I'm gonna say it, but it's like it really feels like something that needs to be said. And for such a long time, there's been a big reverence to remembering, to keeping the idea, keeping these souls, their energies alive through our thoughts, through our intentions, through our emotions. And he brought up, I haven't watched the movie, but they did, Coco. And I guess the general message for everyone that has seen it is, your loved ones are there and are able to like really exist for as long as they're remembered, right? And being remembered is used to be such a powerful thing. And in our culture, we like it's like you pass and you're forgotten in a way. But there's a part of us that like really remembers how important and how sacred and how like that's a responsibility that we have. It's like it's both a we get to, but we also have to, right? It's a privilege for us to have access to this, to them, to our ancestors, to our loved ones, but it's also a responsibility for us to remember that we need to remember them, that we need to keep them alive. And I think it's such a serendipitous moment, Galangong, which is right now from the 19th until the 29th, literally it's a celebration of the spirits. It's a celebration. They say that during these 10 days, the spirits are within us. They're all around us. And so you see this be every business, every what's it called? Not chapel, like temple. Um, so if you didn't hear, we are during Galangong. See, like even the energies right now are kind of shifted everything, so you can see. Um, so it's like this is the time for these 10 days in which they are meant to be around us. And they're within the Balinese understanding. It's like they are literally within us, traveling in the earth plane. This is when they're closest to us. And on the 29th, it's like they're set free. They're kind of set back into their space. And so I just think that this is such a beautiful serendipitous coincidence in which we are currently literally celebrating, Jerry on his birthday. And we're having, we're literally talking about it right during the Galangong. So again, it's just to me, this just shows me once again how beautiful divine timing works, how intricately we're all connected. And when you act out of intuition, at no point did Bianca ever look at her schedule and say, "Oh, this is going to land on his birthday, so I'm going to be doing this every day on his so that eventually lands on his birthday." No, all of this landed perfectly serendipitously, and this is the level of power that you have access to, the level of guidance that you have access to when you are able to listen to your intuition And through your intuition, through your heart, when you open your heart, this is when and how they're able to communicate with you. And I think this is one of the main reasons why Jesus and many other, um, sacred, um, wise men, prophets, ascended masters communicated the importance of the heart because the heart is the portal to the other realms. The heart is our multidimensional operating system. And so when we open the heart, we are able to hear and listen and tap into the higher knowings. And so if you're feeling unsure of how to move forward, if you are feeling unsure of what to do, um, open the heart. And if you have any weight, open the heart and allow that weight to go through the heart and communicate with your team, communicate with your ancestors. Remember your grandparents, remember your great grandparents, remember your ancestors, because even if you never met them, they are there. They existed. They are integrately a part of you. They are within your DNA. And so, what would it look like to just have a moment where you just tap in and you go back through every lineage, trying to picture what their faces were like, trying to picture what their lives were like, trying to picture what uh, all the magic that they were calling forth for their children and children's children and children's children that you get to embody, that you get to experience, and just feeling, opening your heart to that level of love and light that they feel for you being able to live the expansive, beautiful experience that you get to have thanks to their investments, thanks to their trials, thanks to everything that they've done. And then moving that into the future and how you eventually get to do that for your lineage. You get to do that for others. So this importance of being a part of the chain, being a part of the cycle of life and remembering that beautiful, important part because in our culture, we are so focused in the future, we're so focused in us, in the physical, that we forget how important it truly has always been for centuries, for millennia, to remember the past, to remember the lineage, to remember our ancestors, to really cultivate time to remember them. And so I feel like my message here is just remember them. They get power and they get love and beauty and they are able to help you more when you remember them.
Thanks, honey. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of this journey with me. And we remember. It makes me think of like I was raising my hand that looked like this because Dumbledore just died last night again.
I'm just literally getting the beeps.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just holding up our wands for in honor of Dumbledore and in honor of our ancestors. Um, and so yeah, if you enjoyed this, maybe come join a live call with us, Mystery School. We would love to meet you and support you and have you join the community. And if you're seeing this, send me a message if this resonated. I'd love to hear from you about your experiences of connecting with your loved ones. I do many rituals and ceremonies and gatherings, so that way it doesn't feel so lonely and you feel safe to explore the emotion and the intricacies and the depths that come from tapping into your supernatural abilities. So, this is the Mystery School. Thank you, Daddy, for being born. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, honey, for your beautiful reflections and for holding the masculine container in the midst of all of the feminine emotions that move through. And we'll see you all next week.